Hello and welcome. My name is Maren Sockery. I run demand generation for Evolv Technologies. Thank you for taking the time out of your day to listen in. This is our fourth virtual panel in the Think CX Digital Leaders Tell All series. Today, we are focused on the state of digital experience optimization. In today's discussion, we're going to talk about what we learned about optimization throughout our Think CX series. We will discuss the current state of digital experience optimization. And then the last 20 minutes of the webinar, we will share some highlights from Evolv's new release. Don't worry, for those of you that wish to exit before that, we'll certainly warn y'all ahead of time. Before I introduce our panelists, if you have any questions during the presentation, please ask in the message area and we will cover those questions at the end. For those of you that may be triple tasking, we will distribute the recording as well at the end. Now, without further ado, I'd like to introduce our panels of digital leaders. John Tremblay is the Vice President of Marketing at Evolv and brings over 25 years of experience defining and executing marketing plans with a focus on B2B technology. Before joining Evolv, John led North America marketing for Software One, a leading global provider of end-to-end software and cloud technology solutions. John also held senior management positions at Cheshire Bean, at Mosera, Netformex, Xeround, Oracle, and Times 10. Tyler Foster is the Chief Technology Officer at Evolv, where he leads all product development for Evolv, including research, user experience, development, and technical operations. Most recently, Tyler served as Vice President of Engineering for Sentient Technologies, where he was the key contributor to the technology and innovation that make up Evolv's core product offering today. Tyler previously held a series of technical leadership roles delivering products as a founding member of the Navigator team at Cloudera, a principal architect on its online learning platform, and an engineer at Intel's Digital Home Group. Cash Bennett is a product manager at Evolv, where he works across software development, design, and marketing teams to deliver features that maximize impact for their customers. Prior to joining Evolv, Cash led product management and software at WeWork, where he focused on building developer tools to help rapidly scale the business and create an excellent user experience for members. Cash is also a licensed architect and has built digital experiences for that industry that bring measurable analysis of user experience into the complex realm of physically constructed space. So at this point, we've had 3 panels with digital leadership from Reebok, Fund Capital, Edmunds, Commerce Next, Fit for Commerce. We've discussed everything from brand marketing, the customer journey, experimentation, to how to drive innovation. If you missed any of those, please visit evolv.com/events to watch. So kicking us off, John, can you walk us through some of the highlights?
Yeah, thanks, Maren. And thanks everybody for attending today. We definitely live in these unprecedented times, and I hope you and your loved ones are all safe and I guess adjusting to this new normal that we're living with. As Maren mentioned, we kicked off this CX series actually right as California implemented the shelter-in-place policy. And we've been really super lucky to get some phenomenal speakers who've lent their expertise and their thoughts about what's going on in the market. So we wanted to start this particular webinar with a look back at the last 3 sessions and some thoughts about comments and insights that we learned. So the first was Janie from Fund Capital. And what was really interesting with Janie is she really highlighted with the focus on the retail industry and specifically COVID-19 and how they're reacting to that and the importance of experimentation. And really, I think what she did a really good job of highlighting is that great ideas can come from anywhere. And one of the examples that was used is Gmail and Google News, 2 examples of stellar products that really came out of junior engineers spending their so-called 20% time exploring different ideas. But it really points to the need to have this great culture of experimentation and how it can yield some pretty amazing benefits. One of the other panelists, Veronica, during our second Think CX panel, she spent a lot of time diving into data and how data can be so powerful in helping companies make sense of what's really happening. And it's an interesting challenge because too often data is very siloed, it's very compartmentalized. It tends to live inside specific departments, and sharing of that data and making it easy for everybody to leverage it can be very, very challenging, especially in a larger organization. And really it points to the need to be able to find a way to make that data more visible and more actionable. So that was a really interesting perspective about how to democratize data, so to speak. And then Ben from CXL Agency, he really expanded a little bit more on this concept of data and the importance of data to inform your experiments. He talks a lot about the voice of the customer and really paying attention to what customers are saying, what they're thinking, what they're doing. You definitely want to avoid a situation where you're living in a vacuum or an ivory tower and really not confronting the reality of maybe where customers are getting frustrated. There's a lot of interesting trends about shopping cart abandonment and all sorts of other parts of the journey where customers just eject out of the process and you lose them. But more importantly, even understanding where you're having success, where is there a great customer experience, where you're interacting and the interaction with your brand is positive. So there's a lot of ways to think about this. There's some qualitative metrics, there's some quantitative metrics. It goes back to the first statement about data and the importance of having access to all this information, and then making sure that you're really looking at the entire customer experience and really breaking it down into where are they engaging with you, where maybe they're getting stuck or frustrated, and then finding ways to rate the quality of the experience. That's really important because you got to be able to baseline where you're at and figure out how you're going to improve against that benchmark. In fact, Greg from Edmunds in one of the panels spent quite a bit of time on that and how to accomplish having a common goal. And I think that's critical. We see that in spades across a lot of our customers. You have to be able to really get the whole company to rally behind these common goals. They need to be easily understood. Janice spoke about enabling anyone to come up with good ideas, and that's fantastic. But you also need this top-down strategy to align all your resources and make sure that everybody really understands where you're going and working in concert. And I know that's an area where Edmunds has spent a lot of time building a team that can really do that. And have the ability to drive success with very, very clear top level goals and indexes to measure their progress, because that's super important. And then in the next part, our own Sam, who probably spends the most time of any of us with customers, provided a lot more insights too in terms of what he's seeing and how to think about experimentation as a series of iterative steps. And I think that's an interesting area where a lot of companies kind of think testing is something that you just do for a little while and draw a bunch of conclusions and then just move on, right? Stop the test or maybe start a whole new series of tests. And we at Evolv definitely feel that that's a flawed philosophy. And that you really need to have more of a mindset of always on, or what we call continuous optimization. You need to continuously be thinking and challenging what's happening in your customer journey, and you really need to consider how to audit what you've done in the past, because you can have some phenomenal learnings in terms of what worked or what didn't work. And the whole point is just to make sure that you avoid a situation where you're repeating the same mistakes over and over and not really benefiting from incremental knowledge and getting better and better and tighter with what you're trying to do. So that was an interesting insight that we definitely feel very strongly about, and it's something that we see with a lot of the companies that we engage in. And then, back to Greg on Edmonds, he provided even a deeper dive into what Sam was talking about, and really the importance of knowing what success looks like. And it sounds kind of obvious, like you should know what success looks like, but I think for a lot of companies, especially when you're dealing with a digital customer experience, it can be very difficult to figure out what success looks like. Or maybe you oversimplify it. You look at things like, well, how many new visitors do I have on the site? Or what's my conversion rate? And these things are important indeed, but they're really only the tip of the iceberg. And there's a lot more interesting metrics that can inform that you're having success, because getting a lot of visitors on your site, for instance, if you're using that as a metric, what if it's the wrong visitors? It can be a very, very flawed metric to look at. And being somebody who's been 25 years in marketing, it's an easy game to play too. You can start to throw up all these stats about how you're driving huge growth, but is it really the right growth? Is it the success that you're looking for? And back to Sam, who in the series brought us home with this whole concept, based on what we see across many of our customers, is you got to get executive buy-in. Yes, a lot of fantastic ideas can start all over your company, but really, truly, in order for your customer success to deliver what you're looking for, it has to be a company-wide initiative. It has to be something that everybody's paying attention to. It really is something that you want your entire executive team to understand, that it starts with some very clear goals. And then you really have to have experimentation and ongoing experimentation. There's just no way around it. There's so many variables that you have to contend with. And if you do it properly, then having this culture of experimentation, having a methodology and a philosophy around this is going to drive amazing results for your company, and really transform from thinking about that particular function as just simply a cost center or something that's just costing you money at the end of the month. And really, we can't overemphasize how this can have a profound impact on your bottom line. In Sam's quote, we talk about revenue, and that's a key driver for many companies, especially today. But there's more to that. There's the profitability, there's the stickiness, there's retention, there's a lot of other dimensions that tie into this whole bottoms-up approach. So I hope that you found this look back at our last webinars interesting. We definitely have been thrilled with the response that we've gotten. In fact, if any of you today here care to participate in our upcoming webinars, we're doing about one every twice a month, give or take. We've been a little flexible with the schedule, and we would welcome having any of you participate and lend your thoughts about what's going on in the industry. As Maren mentioned, all these past webinars are available on demand for playback on our website. So if any of what I talked about is interesting to you and you want to hear a little bit more about these companies, and I should highlight, some of these aren't customers of ours. They're part of our network of thought leaders and people that we interface with. And there's some really interesting perspectives about what's going on out there. And I'm now going to transition to Tyler. So in this next section, what Tyler's going to do is connect a lot of these themes to how the customer experience industry has continued to evolve. And he's also going to lend some insights into how we're applying these learnings to shape our own product direction. So with that, I'll pass it over to Tyler.
Cool, thanks, John. I'm pretty stoked. They don't generally let us nerds talk to you guys, so I'm glad that we get this opportunity to connect and just share some of our thinking and what we're seeing within our customer base and the industry as a whole to see how people are thinking about customer experience and moving to create the best customer experience that they can. So mean, customer experience has been core to B2C companies for a long time, but as time has progressed and offerings are becoming more commoditized, competition is moving from regional to global, with both digitally native companies and brick and mortar players trying to carve out their place in the digital economy. Customer experience is really more important than ever. In a lot of cases, customer experience is really the only differentiator that a lot of these companies have, especially when you look at the success of a lot of the Silicon Valley companies, and these the tech integrators that have been really skyrocketing over the last decade or so. Really, customer experience is at the center of what they do. Oftentimes not even having their own products or infrastructure. So while there's been an explosion of new companies and products, services, we're now really seeing a consolidation at an amazing rate. Major regional players and large multinationals alike are struggling to really build a sustainable position. With COVID-19 and the current state of the economy there as well, the conditions are really going into overdrive, and delivering massive growth to the current online leaders, and making it really difficult for traditional retailers and product companies who haven't really built that sustainable connection with their customers through a digital experience, making it difficult for them to sustain business. As part of this, we're seeing companies making huge investments in improving the experience and the experience of their customers. And with the shift to the digital, being the standard interface, we're really seeing that the rich data that's available to those organizations, and in both the online experience and the traditional shopping settings, combined with machine learning, and the renaissance that domain has been going through, is really amplifying the results of the investments. So I'll talk a little bit now about the characteristics of these companies that we're seeing that really have led the market in customer experience, and are now leading the market from a customer acquisition as well. For one, they're maximizing the benefit to the customer instead of just talking about it in their marketing campaigns. They're putting the customer at the center of their business. You can invest all day in infrastructure and technologies, but at the end of the day, if you don't have a grounding in real, clear empathy and genuine concern for your customers and their outcomes, it's all for naught. You can't emulate that connection with your customer. They're looking at the bigger picture. So we're seeing a lot of great companies integrating the entire customer experience surface, looking across web, mobile, brick and mortar, support, supply chain, advertising, to come up with a clear common vision for how they can best maximize the experience of their customer. They're connecting in-app research to in-store purchasing. They're implementing same-day delivery for online orders from existing physical stores and supply chain, really looking at the problem as a whole, and making sure that they're using all of the tools at their disposal to really drive that positive experience. We're seeing a lot of new functions and cross-functional teams being developed that are leading this effort. They're bringing in experts from, e-commerce, data management and analytics, customer care, information security, all coming together as a dedicated organization in order to solve some of these customer experience concerns. They're also looking beyond their market and learning from innovators across all industries. There's a ton of great people, designers, researchers, innovators that are trying to solve this problem. And, with the common grounding of, the digital experience and technology integrated into all aspects of our lives, there's a commonality even between, verticals that even 5-10 years ago wouldn't have been able to find a lot of common ground in servicing their customers, because we have this sort of common connection to technology and the digital experience. There's a lot of awesome cross learning going on that I think everyone's really benefiting from. These central teams are also kind of connecting with other similar organizations through meetups and community, and helping each other to sort of advance the state of the art. Companies are getting a lot more methodical in their approach as well. So, most organizations have really moved beyond conversations about blue buttons and are now digging deeper into opportunities to improve. Formal research and experimentation have become the norm. Leading companies have moved beyond subjective ideation and frequentist ABN or simple multivariate testing. And some of the more advanced companies are really going kind of beyond just these sort of simple methodologies, and plugging in really quite advanced techniques. We've seen a lot of companies deploying psychographic research, which has been popular in marketing for quite some time, but really applying it to other areas of their business. Ethnographic research to understand what's driving user behavior. Predictive behavioral research to be able to connect content to the user where they need it, and to help them through their experience as an individual, as opposed to just presenting a sort of common experience to everyone. There's been an interesting kind of shift away from the traditional usability labs into kind of bigger, software deployed research programs, and really some quite interesting stuff going on in the methodologies that companies are using at scale. Companies are also measuring everything, right? But more importantly, they're getting better at understanding that data that they've been collecting. A few years ago, everyone needed big data, but very few really understood why. Today, it's completely different. Organizations are delivering powerful insights that were not possible 5 years ago, and they're doing it at near real time. Organizations are integrating analytics and experimentation across channels, and understanding that, even our on-prem shopping experiences are augmented by technology. Their mobile app, website, online review sites, and even digital experiences of competitors. These have been characteristics that you've seen sort of companies playing with historically, but there's been a huge shift towards this idea that sort of all modalities are part of the user's journey, and we have to connect with our users and customers where they are. I mean, some of the big trends here are simple time series charts, user flow diagrams, frequentist-based A/B and experimentation are just not enough anymore. Organizations are moving to more advanced statistics and models to truly understand their users at scale. There were some interesting kind of technologies that have popped up over the past few years. Some of them stuck, some of them didn't. Some we're still watching to see if they can really unlock their potential. Some really powerful applications of causal inference to learn the impact of changes over time have come out. A good example of this is in analytics tools, primarily. Mixed panels, a good example. Machine learning to understand user preferences and improve next best offer systems. Really just moving beyond correlation to really understanding the cause of certain behaviors. We've seen random forest deployed successfully for a lot of personalization tasks. These are all getting real traction now in different areas. Along with just getting these approaches in place, they're generally being combined with more advanced stream processing for processing large-scale distributed data in order to get near real-time results. Experimentation and personalization have finally become first-class citizens in the modern technology stack. People are moving beyond, kind of flaky JavaScript snippets loaded through a tag manager to implement their experimentation programs and really integrating it into all aspects of their product. Experience variations are being built in by product teams who are now really bought into the need for experimentation and the need for really rich analytics, where it was previously primarily the responsibility of other organizations. We're seeing a lot of really interesting integrations now where customers are sort of moving beyond minor visual changes and doing controlled rollouts through feature flags, driving whole UI configurations through experimentation tools, driving hyperparameters into machine learning algorithms, property boosting in search engines, all being driven directly from core experimentation infrastructure that is deeply connected into their analytics and experience platforms. To sort of everyone's benefit, these trends are spreading quickly, especially with the leaders in the digital economy, delivering material competitive advantage to them. And we're looking forward to seeing it expand through more markets and more of the industry to see the benefit reach to more and more of the customer base globally.
So at this time, I would like to jump into our Q&A, and John will be leading that.
Yeah, excellent. All right, thank you. And feel free to add more questions to chat or the Q&A. We're just going to keep this open for probably 5 minutes or something like that and bring it out there. So I think the first question I'll put it to Tyler. So Tyler, one of the questions that came in is about why you would want to do always-on testing. What's the benefit of doing that versus just traditional start-stop testing?
Well, so I think when it comes to that question, I think that it's that's really posed from the sort of traditional mindset of experimentation. I think optimization is a continuous process, right? You don't run one experiment and then stop. You look at a funnel or KPI or goal that you have for your user, and you try and experiment on it over time, continuously, to find better and better solutions. With the traditional start-stop model, and really kind of frequentist A/B testing in general, you have a problem where it uses a lot of traffic. You can only test ideas serially, and every time you test an idea and lock it in, you're sort of narrowing what is available to you from an optimization perspective in the future. So by introducing the functionality that we call continuous optimization, you're able to much more dynamically interact with your optimization program. You're able to continue to formulate the hypotheses and validate those hypotheses, but you're able to reap the benefits of those those ideas and the better performing ideas earlier. You're able to use less traffic and validate more ideas in the process, and you're also able to continue to move towards that best or ideal experience without locking yourself off from better paths.
Yeah, I think that's excellent. And I think sort of a follow-on question, I believe some people get locked into that line of thinking because they're thinking around specific events like Black Friday or Cyber Monday. And so, what's the value of always on, because you're only leading up to this event. And I'm curious to get your, yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, that's actually a really interesting question. So a lot of people don't realize it, but traffic patterns and user behavior change significantly during key events, during these sort of seasonal changes. So if you look at Black Friday and other key shopping days, if you're running a traditional experiment during those periods, oftentimes you'll find that if you look deeply into the data, the user behavior changes, and it will actually change your answer, which is really disturbing when you get so much traffic on those days, and it tends to overwhelm your results. So I think that looking at it from a continuous optimization perspective and putting in the ideas, validating them before the events, pausing it to maximize benefit during those events, and then continuing to learn after, that flexibility of experimentation, I think, really helps in maximizing results, and also making sure that your statistically significant answers are in fact correct.
Yeah, that's a good point, and I think it's a follow on to one of the questions in terms of like what do we see as the benefits, and we have so much evidence of customers implementing that methodology, and most importantly, not having to choose a subset of things to test, because you're able to just throw all your ideas out there, and the machine learning kind of helps you test through combinations and amounts of variables that just wouldn't be possible as a human to implement into a test. And the benefits are phenomenal. I mean, we have lots of examples of customers that are doubling, tripling, quadrupling whatever KPI that they're looking to affect, whether it's shopping cart conversion or number of visitors or subscribers to something that they have. Lots and lots of examples of being able to do that in a very short amount of time. And Tyler, I think this speaks volume to just the power of being able to do it this way.
Yeah, I think that there's a, in the traditional model, when resources are so constrained, it's very, you have to be very subjective and selective about what actually gets tested. That it causes people to be really conservative, and so those interesting ideas, those potentially really impactful ideas get left on the cutting room floor, and they tend to focus on the more conservative changes and minor tweaks that that don't tend to have as big of an impact. So I think that by increasing the bandwidth of experimentation and lowering the barrier to entry for product teams to be able to participate and everybody from the organization to contribute ideas in a really meaningful way, I think you know, it does end up paying off in really surprising ways.
For sure. Oh, hang on. We have one more question that just came in. So with continuous optimization approach, do your customers apply winning elements regularly while new experiments are launched and running, or is it best to have some pauses in between some experiments for the new dust to settle with newly deployed code updates?
That's actually a really great question. So the way that we see, so the system, you know, though the system can be as start-stop as you want it to, but the reality of the system is that it's continually adaptive, right? So when you put in your ideas, it is constantly measuring the current results and responding to the user behavior of it's facing today. And so in these cases where customers will put in an experiment, come to a conclusion, we're often seeing people just lock in those changes and say, this is, you know, I found the answer to this hypothesis, so I'm going to deliver this to all of my customers, and then they do that while they put it onto the backlog for their product team to get implemented at some point in the future. And then once that gets deployed, they just turn it off in the system. And so they're able to define the answer very quickly, benefit from the answer over that to bridge the gap to when it actually gets implemented in the product. But once it's implemented in the product, really the algorithms respond very quickly to then turning it off, and the new baseline, because we use a technique called adaptive control to ensure that we can respond quickly to what is the true behavior of the customer, as opposed to depending on time to control for like all of the potential variables that are going on around these changes.
Excellent. Okay. Well, I think we've answered all the questions. Yep, definitely. So Maren, back to you, please.
Thanks, John. So I just wanted to thank everyone for joining us today. Thanks so much, John, Tyler, and Cash. And to all of our participants, we will be sharing probably 2 segments of the webinar today, one with the state of the state, and then a second follow-up with the product demo. If you wish to find any more information, you can visit evolv.ai. Again, we've got another event next week dedicated to food and beverage. So please join us if that is relevant to your organization, and stay tuned for other events at events.ai, evolv.ai/events. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you very much.